Well, the first thing we would like you to do is introduce yourself.
Okay. My name is Lawrence Olliffe, and I am now a supervising director here at St. Sophia.
What does that mean, supervising director?
I used to have a group where I was the director itself, but now what I'm doing is I'm overseeing newer directors where someone who's never directed before, that they were someone we were mentoring before, but now, they have a group of their own. But they still need guidance. They're new. So we teach them how to do research, what to look for, how to work with children, and just kind of guide them to becoming a director who can stand on their own. So
Right.
yeah.
Do you have manuals and things like that for them?
We don't. That's actually a very good idea. No, we don't. It's more that we share from our experiences. And I've been directing here, I guess, since like maybe '99. I started with a general group that was a large group of kids when we very first started. It was supposed to be ages 5 to 10, but we made a couple exceptions, so it was ages 4 to 11. And we were just teaching general Greek dances, things that you do at a wedding or a baptism. And then one of the FDS was going to be local here, so we thought we really should break that up and actually take teams, more than just the advanced senior team, have a full program. With all of these kids, it was a shame to not have a fuller program. So we broke them out into age groups and, generally by grades. And that's kind of how the fuller program started.
And that was in '99?
No, I started here in '99. That actually happened in 2002, in order to go to the 2003 FDF.
So was '99 the first year St. Sophia had teams?
They had excuse me, like I said, it was a more general program. And it wasn't where they had teams, but they were more an advanced senior level or a senior level. They had other programs earlier, but it had gotten to a point where the only people that were still really involved were the advanced senior group. And then we had this influx of kids, and it was really wonderful. But we had to do something with all of that energy. So we formed, like I say, a fuller dance program. And that was in, like I say, 2002.
Okay. And what were you doing before that with the church and?
I was just a member. I was just going to church here. I was taking a dance class somewhere else. And I don't know, Lula Mosconas, if you've chatted with her, of course. She was in the class and said that if I was telling her, it sounded fantastic that she was getting to work with kids and to teach. And she very slyly said to me, "Really? Well, if you really wanted to help out," because I said, "Oh, I would love to be able to do something like that." And she took me up on that offer. And
the rest is history.
Yeah, and I've been here ever since. So.
Wow. So you had no experience with FDF prior as a dancer or?
No, I'm originally, excuse me, I'm originally from Michigan and the Detroit area, and we don't have anything like that there. It was strictly dancing at festivals or at weddings or baptisms. So there was never that kind of organized competition or just really an organization in general. So it was all very new to me. And like I said, I'd previously only done the very generic Greek festival dances. There were some regional dances just because of the people that were in the community, but FDF is a whole different ball of wax where suddenly instead of just doing generic dances, you're doing research on a specific region, maybe even a specific village. Well, not maybe, even specific villages. Sorry, and it gets very specialized. So that's when I first started really doing research and actually going to Greece and going to seminars there and dancing in the villages with people and being between them as opposed to learning it here from somebody who's learned it from someone who's learned it from someone. It's a very different experience to be in the village and really between people that this is their life. This is what they do.
Oh, I'm sure.
So yeah.
And did you start doing that pretty much right away after you started teaching? Did you realize I really need to go to the village?
I would say I went to just a general village dance in 2004 on my own. In 2004, I went to a small village in Crete. I happened to be there just as a tourist with a friend, and we happened to catch up on a Yiddy that was going on, and it was it's really fantastic to really see it live and in action. But in 2005, I went on a research trip with several other people from here. And that was in northern Greece, and it did several different regions, but the region that that most of the locals are from are actually originally from Pondos, which is in modern-day Turkey. And they were resettled there, and so we were in those villages, and that happened to be the region I was also researching, so it was perfect. And that's where I had the most fun, and going, to those, like every night there was something going. It was the summer, so every night there was something going on. So we would find some village square somewhere, there were musicians playing, and everyone's out dancing, and it was really fascinating because you'd also see the same people at all of these different random villages all over the place.
Really?
And yeah, if you hear that a musician's playing, you go to that village, and that's what they do. And it was really a fantastic experience.
Did you take video when you were there?
We did, yeah, we took a lot of it.
Okay. I have a question about research. If you
Right.
can't go to the village, which
Mhm.
people can't just pick up
Right.
and go to
It's
Greece,
not easy, yeah.
where do you research?
You rely on the videos that people have taken. And the challenge becomes, and that's what we try, before you were asking what does supervising director do, and that's one of the things that we do is we help younger directors kind of weed through all the videos that are out there. Now you can go on YouTube and look up anything, and that didn't always happen to be the case. That's really in the past, maybe 5 years even, that's really come about. You have this amazing resource right at your fingertips. But the challenge with that is weeding out what is good and what isn't good, because there are a ton of people on there teaching, and it's not that someone is right or wrong, but you have to be able to identify where something's from. That it's a different style because of a different village, or that it's a different style because that's their personal style. And that's what you have to be able to kind of tease out of those videos. So, but that's really the main source. For years, because of scholarships, there were FDF scholarships where people would go and actually go to the villages, and part or all of their trip was funded, depending. But one of the requirements was you had to bring back materials. You had to bring back research footage, and you had to bring back a field recording. And it's really through seeing that you can't go yourself, but you have those resources available to you, that was so important in the earlier days. Again, you still had to sort through what was good and what was just some guy's individual style, and you have to be able to kind of look at those and figure out what is the pattern that none of them vary from. There's one basic core that you can kind of figure out. They're always stepping behind at this point, and they're always stepping in front in this point, which can kind of homogenize the dance. But when it's from a specific village, you can kind of do that. But when you start comparing villages, then you get a very you make it a more generic version, and that's something that you have to be careful of.
Because what's authentic could be
Right.
authentic. The same dance is
Right.
authentic in that village.
In that village.
Different in this village.
Yes, and sometimes it is the slightest thing. In one village, on the number 2 step, they step behind, and on another village, the number 2 step, they step in front. And there's small little differences like that. And there was an example, like in Crete, they could tell exactly what village you're from by the way you do a specific dance, because oh, you move your foot this way, oh, you kind of move your foot that way. And it's all about the styling. Anyone can walk through the steps, but it's really the styling of those steps and how you do those steps that really bring out the life of a dance.
That's so interesting that just that much variation, you can tell where someone is from.
Yeah.
I can't.
I mean, it's like an English accent. They say in Britain that people can tell what street you're from by the way you speak. With Greek dancing, it's kind of the same thing. They can tell where you're from by the way you dance.
Yeah,
So,
I love that. Have you seen a growth, not FDF, but outside of FDF, have you seen Greek dance growing because of YouTube, or is there more interest in it?
I think it's more accessible. I think that there is more of a growth because people are trying to preserve it. I think it's become important. People that did grow up with FDF are interested in seeing their kids dancing as well. So whether that be at a festival or whether that be FDF, I think that they really kind of want to see that preserved. Diaspora in general seems to do that, where they really guard their culture and the traditions. But YouTube makes that much more accessible. You have lessons online where people can look and see how a dance is done, and really get some great material.
Did you grow up first of all, you're Greek?
Very little, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it was my great-grandmother who was Greek.
Okay.
So I have a very distant connection to it, but I grew up in a Greek neighborhood. So,
Okay.
So even though it wasn't part of my daily family life, it was part of my daily experience. My big fat Greek wedding had kind of a special meaning to me because I kind of grew up on both sides of that. I saw things from a Greek perspective because I was always in it, but yet at the same time, I wasn't like everyone else. I wasn't Greek like everyone else was. I mean, they were fresh immigrants, so it was a different experience, but I got to see both sides of that. So that movie was a kind of a special treat for me.
Yeah,
where
I bet it was.
I'm like, oh, I've been there before.
Is your family because I was doing a little research, I couldn't find too much, but are they the sausage company back there?
There is the Olliffe Butcher Company in Toronto, and when I go in there, even though we're not related, the name was just from a PR guy. Yeah, because he had like this old photo of a butcher in Britain somewhere that he thought was just this beautiful photo, this very simple photo, and so they used that name for when they were trying to come up with a concept.
That's so interesting, because I thought you must be related,
Yeah,
because I've never heard
you'd
that
think
name.
so, and but when I walk in and I show them my ID, they give me the family discount. So
Even though there is no family.
there's no connection. Yeah, so
I love
yeah.
That's great. That's interesting, your background.
Yeah.
Did you do Greek dancing when you were a kid?
I grew up doing it as a kid. So I mean,
you felt comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing basic Greek dancing since maybe I was 5, so not really much older than we start the kids here. So I mean, pretty much all my life. There were a few points where it was on and off, just because I was, you hit teenage years and you're like, I don't know if I want to do that, or we just have different points in our life where we do and don't do things. But it never failed that in the summer, I would always go to the festivals. So,
Couldn't stay away.
yeah, I just couldn't stay away.
Yeah.
So,
What's your favorite aspect of being a director?
wow, seeing them get it. Seeing them realize that they can do it. I have a couple students in particular that I just love working with because they get frustrated, they completely shut down, and I pull them to the side and I walk them through it and I talk them through it, and they get it. And you see that look on their face, whereas they were completely frustrated just a few seconds earlier, where you see it register that, they're happy that they can actually do this now. It's that. It's also been experiences where I've seen that I've made a difference in someone's life. It's not just about dancing. We have kind of a unique program here where, like in school, you go from first grade to second grade and you have a different teacher each year. And some churches do that as well with their dance programs. We don't. We stay with that group their whole way through. So the group that I just finished being a director with, I've been teaching some of them since they were 4, and now that one in particular is going to be 20. So yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that ever happened, that you stuck. Eleni was the first time I heard that. So you must feel like they're your kids.
I do. I really do. And that's, I think, one thing that's unique about our program in particular. But another aspect of that is that you do see them grow up right in front of you, and you do feel like you're part of their life, and you do realize, or you should realize, that you are making a difference in their life. And it goes beyond dance. It's much beyond dance. It's teaching them to be better people as well.
And what about the cultural aspect of it?
The cultural aspect is a bit of a back and forth. We are gearing up for FDF, and it is a competition, so sometimes the cultural aspect gets lost. And that, to me, that doesn't work for me, actually. I think that half of our goal is to preserve the culture. And so I personally think that it's important that you not only just teach dance for competition, but you also teach the history that's attached to it, that you also teach the background of this area, that you tell about the characteristics of this area and why they dance the way they dance. Is it because of their geography or their history? They all wear heavy clothes and they have heavy steps. It's because they're from the north where it's cold. There are little things like that I think it's important. The names of the dances. It drives me crazy. My students will tell you. There's one way to set me off, and it's to not know the name of a dance. It's that one where you do the step and then there's the next step. I'm like, no. What is the name of the dance? Because you can't lose that. These things can't just disappear into history. That's the whole reason we're doing this. Is that so that isn't lost. The history isn't lost and the culture isn't lost.
To what extent do the dancers, it sounds like in your case that's really emphasized with you, that they understand the story of what they're doing?
With me in particular, it is. And like I say, it gets to be, I don't want to say a battle because it's not a battle at all, but it is this fine line between making sure that you're teaching steps for competition and you're still making time to get that in there and to explain that and to explain the importance of it. Like I say, the region that I in particular taught for quite a while was important to me because of an incident with my godfather, actually his mother. She came to visit, and it was when I very first started teaching this region, and I knew one dance from that region because of where I grew up. There were people from that region as well.
And this region is?
It's called Bondos.
Okay.
And so I was teaching, and I wasn't really sure about teaching this. It's a bit of an advanced region to be teaching kids that are so young. And there was some struggle for them learning these steps. But my godfather said, you know, my mother's from there, which I did know that, and she's out visiting. You're going to be having your annual dance where it's usually about like a week or two before FDF. She wants to come and see your kids dance. Okay, and I didn't really think anything about it. And so we're getting ready, the music comes on, the kids come out, they're adorable and they're dancing, and she turns around to me, she's standing up in front watching, and I see, you know, from behind that she's clapping and enjoying it, and she turns around and she is nearly sobbing and has the biggest smile on her face and said to me, some of these dances I haven't seen since I was a little girl. It's been 55 years since I've seen these dances. And that to me is what it's all about. That guarding that tradition and guarding that history so that it's not lost.
Because it means something.
It means something to, you know, these people where it comes from. And it means something to the grandparents of the children who are dancing. Sometimes they're from that region, sometimes they're not. But the important thing is that we're guarding that, we're preserving that. And like I say, that incident in particular, to me, was why I really push so hard to make sure that I'm giving that context. I think that that's important.
What do you think about, I had wished when I was at FDF the two times I've been, that they explained the dances a bit before, or even just briefly gave you some
Right.
hints?
That is kind of a bone of contention. Because it's a competition, you know, who is going to give that brief description? What is that write-up going to be? And is it going to give you an unfair advantage to have that? It would be nice if there was something in a booklet or something that kind of described that to you so that you did have context of what this dance is. It's really only done more at performances where, you know, the narrator will actually come on and say this dance is based on this scene from village life or reenactment of. That's really the only time that you get that type of background, which is unfortunate. And some people are very guarded about that information because it's a competition. They don't want you to know what they're doing until they get up on stage. So not like you could suddenly change your routine 5 minutes before and do something else, but they just, you know, some of it is very competitive, and that it's a blessing and a curse. The competition is definitely, you know, something that adds a dynamic that's both good and bad. It's good because people feel pushed to learn more and to know more and to do more. And so you get amazing research. People do go to villages and people do dig into this stuff and people do talk to people. And that's another part of it, you know, communicating with people and getting that information so that it's not lost. You know, the downside is it's a competition, and especially when you've worked so hard, sometimes people's feelings get hurt, and I understand that. I mean, I get that is definitely the downside, but that positive side, where we're getting so much out of it, it pushes us to be better directors, it pushes them to be better dancers, it pushes us, you know, to really make sure that we're digging in and getting quality information.
And that makes it, I think you do have to have a driver like that, like
Yeah.
the competition.
I mean, if we were just going out and having fun, I think that we would still be doing the generic festival dances and everyone would do it and we would be bored and it would fizzle out, and I think that'd be the end of it. I don't think that, you know, watching 100 teams do the same dance is going to, you know, with no competition there or no drive to make you do research and make you try harder and make you really push yourself on all levels for the director and the dancer to do better. You know, I think that positive as much of a drawback as it can be, I think that those positives really outweigh the negatives of it.
That's good. Can you describe the dancing of Pontos? Can you characterize it?
Ooh, that's tough. One thing is that Pontos was a huge region, the size of some countries. I mean, it was a huge, huge area, and villages varied dramatically one to another. So it is a bit difficult to, although people try. People do try to kind of characterize it in one particular way. But it's kind of a disservice to the region to do that. There are certain characteristics that do seem to be throughout the region. There's this kind of shaking that they do. It's all coming from the knees, and the shoulders are very loose and relaxed, and they kind of bounce along almost like a rag doll. They bounce along, and it's all carried up through your knees. And the knees are very loose, and they have a thing called a double bounce that's really only in that region. But it's not in all of the dances, and it's not in all of the villages. But it is something that when you see that, you know that, and like, that's Pondiaca.
And do you know why certain dances or styles like that movement? And that's probably hard. I think it was Nick Stefanidis that spoke about an island dance where the knees sort of sway in a way that you would think of as like the waves of an ocean.
That's very typical of island dancing. Island dancing is much more fluid, and it is that it's that motion of the waves. It's an up and it's a down and it's a forward and it's a back and it's an ebb and flow. It's very much, and also the wind, the way that things kind of rush in. That's very characteristic of pretty much all of the islands. There's a huge variety of styles between the islands. Every island is, I would almost say that every island's distinct. But there is that general characteristic of the waves, and like I say, the ebb and the flow, the forward and the back, that does carry through pretty much all the islands.
Wow.
So yeah.
It's very natural.
Yeah, like I say, it was the, with the heaviness of the north, it's because of the weight and the weather and the winter and the heavy clothing, and you can't do these lighter steps, and you can't, whereas an island, it's all, not all, but many of the islands have just this lighter, easy, fluid step that you don't have on the mainland.
That makes sense. As in your experience at FDF, have you focused on, or have you won awards yourself?
Yes, I have.
Can you list the awards for us?
I won my first gold this year, actually. My last year of directing was my first year of winning a gold medal. And it was really an amazing way to finish.
And what was the name of your group?
That was Kimata, and that was the group that I've been with since 2002. It was really a fantastic way to finish.
What was it like did you expect to win a gold medal?
No. I didn't at all. And Eleni and I were holding hands, and we thought that we did really well, but we weren't really sure, and we kind of saw glimpses of the other competition, and they looked really good, and we're going through, and they go through all the awards, and they hit maybe third. And we're thinking, okay, we did get second last year, possibly we got second? And they get to second, and wow, okay, this isn't how we expected things to end. And then they announced the gold, and it was us. And that happened the year before when we won second as well. We really did not expect the second 2 years ago.
Really? That?
Well, no, I mean, it wasn't that, it was just a surprise. I mean, we were thinking that it was going to be more like fourth or third, possibly third. We were expecting, or hoping for more like a three or a fourth place, but they went wild when the second place was announced, and again this year with the first, of course. So,
well, congratulations.
Thank you.
First.
Yeah, so I've had a first, quite a few seconds. I have a stack of red ribbons. I think I've only gotten 2/3. I'm trying to think what else. I think mainly second. I've gotten a lot of seconds.
We try harder, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so. That's great. Now, why is this your last year?
Our group just got to an age where right now half of them have gone off to school, or started working, or school and working, and they're young adults now, and they don't have. It's such a hard thing to devote so much time, and to have a cohesive group where we actually have full practices with everyone there was getting more and more difficult with each year. Last year was really difficult. So we had several practices where only a handful of people out of 13 showed up. And it wasn't in the best interest of anyone to force that to happen again. It was kind of, we won a first place. It was a nice way to finish.
Go out on a high.
Go out on a high note. Yeah. So that's if it wasn't such a time commitment, and at this point in their lives right now where they have so much going on, I mean, we'd probably do it forever. And who knows, maybe in the future they'll revive it. I don't know. It's happened before with several groups where they've come back. So
that's good.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do with? Do you ever see yourself as a judge?
I don't know. I think that I would require a lot more research before I would feel comfortable doing that. I mean, I think I have a good grasp, but I think that there are other people that have a great grasp. And as much as I love it, I just think that I'm not prepared for that type of thing just quite yet. So
will you stay involved with the program?
Yeah, like I say, I'm currently a supervising director,
oh, that's
and
right.
And I will be back here tomorrow morning teaching again. So yeah.
So you'll go through this competition.
Yes. I will definitely be there this year, and I'm glad that I'm doing the supervisory role. It won't require every single week of my time, but still allows me to go to FDF. I could go to FDF on my own, but there's something about the belonging and being with a team that you've worked with all year. I think I would feel awkward if I wasn't directly involved and just kind of peripherally there and not fully taking part like I always have in the past. And that day's going to come where I'm not directly involved with the group, and I'm not looking forward to it. I think it's going to be an awkward day.
That is tough. Yeah, when President's Day weekend rolls around,
Yeah.
You're like, what do I do?
Exactly.
Well, you've served for a long time.
I have, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. Well, maybe not every, but
Yeah,
yeah,
every single minute of it,
I've enjoyed most minutes of it.
Have you made friends in a lot of other areas?
Yes, and that's one of the things that is really amazing about FDF is you have the whole Western Diocese coming together, and you meet new people every year. It's really a wonderful thing, and that was the goal. It was really the original goal, is not only the cultural preservation, but also for Greeks to meet other Greeks and to be, to have a place to come together where you can meet other Greeks, and that was a really important kind of underlying tone there. So.
Yeah. What about the religious aspect? Is that...
That's another thing where it's been Not a push and pull. I don't want to say that there is any kind of. It's not. Well, it isn't really an issue, but um, you do have to wonder, what does Greek dance have to do with the church, and what does it have to do with the religion, and why should the church back it? Um, but I think the thing that's really kind of wonderful about it is that you get the kids involved in Greek dancing, you get them involved with their friends, and you get them involved in the community. And similar to the halo effect with other situations, you get them involved in this community, and you get them involved in the church, and they become your future.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we've had things where we've had to require that the kids be involved with the church. Some would only come for Greek dance. And it is a ministry, it is an outreach of the church. So we did put certain things in place that, they had to attend on a basic level and be a member. And you do have to be a member in good standing to be part of the group anyway. So, we really did kind of push to get them more involved in the church.
Well, that's good,
Yeah.
I think. That's just my opinion. What do you think the future of FDF is?
Strong, I hope. I mean, I can't see that it wouldn't be. All of the people that have been involved for so many years are now having kids, and their kids are now involved. And one of the students in the new group that I'm supervising is the child of a woman that I used to dance with. So, the cycle continues. And I think it's a really amazing thing.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I was so impressed when I was there. How do you know Peter Grelvos well, or
I don't know him really well.
I didn't know if you wanted to share.
I do. I mean, I know him mainly from FDF and from working with Eleni. That's mainly how I know him. I know him mainly as someone who wants to know what needs to be done and then figures out how to make sure it gets done. And that's one thing that I've always really admired about him, is that he does see that there is a need, and takes care of it.
Okay.
So yeah, it keeps it rolling. So there were many occasions where he's like, "What needs to happen?
What's going on?
What's going on? What needs to happen? So how do we take care of this?"
Yeah.
And got the right people to take care of it.
Good.
If he didn't do it himself, and many times he did it himself.
In terms of this documentary, is there anything you would like to see covered, or a point you think should be made about FDF?
Ooh, that's a great question, actually. I think that most of the points were covered. I think that it really needs to be stressed, or I hope that it's stressed, that really the reason that we're there is to bring Greeks together, especially kids, and to get them involved. And to get them involved not only culturally, but also in their church. And again, to make sure that cultural and historical background is kept, and it isn't overshadowed by the competition. That the competition sparks us or inspires us to dig deeper into the culture and into the history, so that it can be preserved. And it's not just something that you trot out and do for your 10 minutes and forget about, and that you know the names and that you know the history, and guard that and continue it.
I like that phrase, guard that.
I think you really are. I mean, you're a custodian or a guardian of that culture and that history. I mean, that's a huge responsibility that I don't think people fully appreciate. I think they realize, oh yeah, we're working on that, and we're teaching a little bit about history and culture here and there, but I don't think that people realize how fragile history is. Memories disappear, And time wipes things away pretty quickly. And if you don't understand that responsibility, all of that can go away.
And it's going away quickly in this particular era. I feel
Right.
like. Being
And
destroyed.
it does disappear quickly. There are resurgences here and there for different groups and different aspects, but villages get forgotten, especially when, like with Pondos, as an example, they had to leave. They were displaced, and that happened with a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. Not just Pondos, but actually through all out Asia Minor, people were displaced and their villages disappeared. And if they didn't take it upon themselves to preserve that, all of that would be gone. The history would be gone, the culture would be gone, the dances would be gone, and the music would be gone. And we're fortunate that those people loved it and were so passionate about it that they kept it, because that's not always true in other areas, not just of Greece, anywhere in the world. Civilizations have disappeared. We don't know anything about them today. And I think that that's our responsibility. We make sure that that doesn't happen with our history and with our culture.
I have read too that refugees, I was talking to someone about this, but when they leave, and somewhere in their minds, even if they're in another country settled
Right.
for their whole lives, really,
Yeah.
70 years or something, in their
Yeah.
hearts they still,
They still live in that
does
time.
this mean we're not going back? They always think,
Yes, that's true as well. Diaspora in general also, not only that kind of yearning to go back, but also the yearning to stay culturally and mentally right where they were. You'll find language locks in time. When a community settles together in a certain area, the language that they use, the dialect that they use, the accent that they use will lock in time, completely separate from anything else that's happened, back where they actually came from. And that happens with a lot of immigrant communities, where you can kind of tell when and where they came from because of the way they speak.
they just never evolved
Yeah.
because they stuck so close.
They're so passionate about it, and it's so dear to them that they won't change it, or don't change it, or can't change it.
There's some community in Italy, it's famous, I can't think of the name of it, where they speak in a really old, archaic form of
Yeah.
Greek. I can't remember
Yeah,
that.
there were parts of Greece or parts of Italy rather, that were settled by Greece, or by Greeks rather, and that's that happens in a few places. Actually, the director where I work, his family spoke a kind of a strange mix like that of ancient Greek and Italian. So, and he was kind of surprised, when I had a Greek book, and he's like, "Oh, are you Greek? I'm Italian." I'm like, "Well, I'm not catching the relation here." And he said, "Actually, at home we speak kind of a mixture of the two, where it's based on ancient Greek." So, yeah,
Could you understand him? Could you?
He understood me more than I understood him, because he's also throwing a lot of Italian in there that I wasn't quite grasping. So.
That's fun though.
But I mean, he could read. He was able to read what was in the text that I had, and it was really fascinating that they still, after all these years, it was still part of their culture. So, and you have the reverse as well. On some of the Greek islands, like Kefalonia, for example, they have an Italian influence because they were owned and settled by Italians. So some of their local dialect is actually Italian, or an old form of Italian, or Italian mixed in with Greek.
That's
So.
well, Europe's so close to
Yeah.
countries in that way that that's to be expected, I guess.
Yeah.
Has FDF had any? This is like my last question, I promise.
Okay.
Has it had an effect on your life outside? I mean, obviously it would, but any tangible way, like at your work or?
How has FTF affected me?
Instead of the other way.
Yeah. I would just say that my friends are like, "Oh, you're going to a Greek thing again?" No. The way that FDF has affected me is that I do feel a responsibility to the kids that I've worked with. And so it's not just at FDF that I feel responsible for them. It's also outside of here. And now that they're older, we become more friends than a teacher-student. I still keep in touch with all of them. I still chat with several of them daily. They become more part of my life outside of dance than just seeing them for an hour on Sunday. So I think that that's probably the biggest way that it's affected my life is I've met so many people that are life friends, not FDF friends and not dance friends, but are life friends. So
Great. I don't have anything else. Would you like to say anything else?
I'm better with questions.